Welcome to the Valuu Makers Podcast. My name is Ryan Purvis. I'm your host, supported by Heather Bicknell, as we meet with the people that make the digital workspace work. It's about the technology, it's about improving people's work experience and finding the return on value. So welcome, Andre, to the Valuu Makers Podcast. Do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, of course. So, Andre, I'm CEO and founder of Makersforge, who are a games industry partner that helps businesses to raise, hire, and connect through community. In terms of a little bit of extra about myself, I come from a recruitment background, hence why recruitment is such a big part of the business at large. But the main thing that we're really trying to accomplish at Makersforge at the moment is to try and enrich the startup ecosystem within games. It's had a bit of a rough ride in the past 3 years, I would say, and the layoffs and all of the bad things that have happened. But it's also resulted in a million sprouting game studios that are all going through similar issues as any startup does. And it's about just trying to find really great ways to collectively raise the industry and help these startups turn into the games giants of tomorrow.
Fantastic. How did you get into games?
Well, when I started recruiting in tech and software development and cloud and DevOps, etc. And I was doing that specifically within the Finnish market. But you can't really recruit for tech companies in Finland without touching mobile games. If you think about it, Angry Birds comes from Rovio, they're in Helsinki. You've got Clash of Clans and all the rest of the Supercell titles, they're in Helsinki. Next games that sold to Netflix, it's literally Netflix mobile game studio. They're in Helsinki. You see the pattern, right? So it just became the place. Yeah, it's one of the self-proclaimed mobile game studio capitals of the world, I suppose. And that's how I ended up getting into it, helping startups with their first key hires within games, and it kind of snowballed.
And you were doing this from Newcastle, or were you doing this from...
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
I was doing
Or remote.
from Newcastle, yeah.
Okay. That's pretty cool. And have you built your own game? Or
no. So unfortunately, I'm not on the game development side. Although, part of the whole thing is I run a community of founders in the games industry, and that's the kind of vehicle for helping them do all the things I'd like to help them do. And it would be cool if collectively we made a game as well, like as all the founders, like this mega team and creating our own game. Maybe that's down the line, right? But no, not in game development myself yet.
And we met through the dads building companies group. What have you got children-wise? Or child-wise?
So I have a son, Etienne, who is 3 years old. And then Eloise is 10 months old. And that age gap is an interesting one because you've got toilet training and teething at the same time. And some bundles of fun, of course. But no, they're class. They make it. It's never easy, but they make it easier than I believe it could have been, which is nice. They're pretty good.
Yeah, I've got a boy and a girl as well. Dixon 4, well, she's 4 in 9 days' time. And
nice.
So we've had that same sort of gap and the fun of that gap. And the nice thing about a girl being second is they're super smart, big boys, and they accelerate. They close that gap quite quickly to be the same. So you'll see that in the future, which is great. Okay, cool. And so tell me a bit more about your approach. How do you show value in your industry?
Of course. So it's an interesting one, this one. I went off to build my own business because I fell out of love with the way that recruitment businesses did their acquisition of clients. So I started working in really, really large recruitment agencies, right? So the first one I worked in was, massive, global, worldwide in 23 or 24 different countries. And then the second one I worked with was smaller scale. The part of that business that I worked on was smaller scale. They were more national for all of the other areas that they covered. And then for the international side of things, it was a little bit smaller. And there was a few things that traditional recruitment businesses do that I just couldn't get my head around why they would do it that way. So I believe that recruitment as an industry is a bit insular in that people do things the way they do things because that's what their bosses told them. That's what their bosses told them. And to be fair, if things work, then fair enough. But there also needs to be consideration of if markets change, what's new, are you actually holding yourself back in any way? So to give a mega specific example, acquisition of clients tends to be in recruitment done by speaking to some open to work people, getting a getting one of them that's really good, writing either an anonymous spec, which if you're going to do it this way, write an anonymous spec. Don't do it the shady way, because some recruitment companies, unfortunately, will just take someone's CV, maybe even if they didn't consent, right? And they'll just, with all the name and everything, and they'll just attach it to an email. They'll build an email list of 10,000 companies and say, hi, hope this finds you well. What does that even mean, finds you well? Does it mean you're expecting the other person to be healthy, or you expect the email to actually get into their inbox? Anyway, hope to see my find you well. Here's a candidate I believe would be of interest. Could they join your team? ? Best regards. Such a load of rubbish, man. And the thing is you're alienating so many other people. Like, I get the perspective of you need to let a lot of people know what you do in order for it to become time that they need to use your services, that you can do that.
Yeah.
But we live in an age of social media. You're really going to spend weeks of your time building a list of 10,000 people that might not want to hear from you, when you could just build a following of 10,000 people and put a post out and reach everyone, right? Maybe algorithms don't work exactly that way, but then it's, they're consenting to read the thing. You've also got the point of, like, unfortunately, some recruitment companies do have it where they will use a full CV of someone that doesn't solicit to do that. Ethically, I don't think that's right in the slightest. The problem then became recruitment companies and recruiters complaining about transactional relationships with their clients. They almost feel that, like, they're the weird cousin that got invited to the party because they were old enough to buy beer. And they came and they brought the beer and the company or the people says, oh, thank you for the beer. I suppose you can hang around, or we'll speak to you if you like. And it's weird, right? Because the recruitment consultants are they're selling it like a product. They can complaining about transactional value relationships, but you're selling a product. You're saying, I have a candidate, a product, here it is. Would you like to buy it? Company says, oh, yes, I'd love to buy that. They say, how much? You name a price. They go, oh, that's nice. Thank you very much. Cheers for that. See you later. And then they complain about transactional relationships. I wanted to change that around and do something a little bit different. So the way that I approach it is I approach it from a point of making sure that the service that I provide is the focal point in the conversation. If you're spending 8 weeks to find someone, to hire someone, I'll do it in 3. Right? What could that 5 weeks that you just bought back do for your business if it was allocated elsewhere? There's the value, right? Or even just not the actual amount of time that it takes to reduce, but the effort and sacrifice that person puts in. Like, maybe that person could hire someone in 3 weeks, but how much effort and resource are they going to need to put in to do that by themselves? Can they even afford to do that? Well, don't worry, we'll do it for you. There's the value. And it's about showing what other value other than just the dream outcome, the finding the person. Yeah, that's great. We want to get to that. But there's so many different elements that take to get to that. And how can we reduce friction, reduce time, and make sure that they can spend the time on better things? And I think that's the value add.
Yeah. And I think that, you're talking in the general terms, but I can think of specific cases where having someone start sooner, a month sooner is a month sooner that they're, ready to go at work. They've onboarded, they've understood the increment, etc. Also, if someone's leaving you, trying to replace them, that overlap's quite important sometimes in the knowledge transfer. So I could definitely see how you would do the value. Do you charge differently then if you're trying to change the way you do it?
So yes, actually. And it's a bit of a lot of people will hate, a lot of recruiters will be looking at me like, listen to this going, don't say that now. Everyone's going to expect this, right? The way that recruiters normally charge is like a success fee in the first instance anyway. Retainers and RPOs and things exist, but you would need to prove that you could do the job before you get a retainer. So you need to do it on a success fee first to do the thing. Now, normally that's a percentage of the candidate's annual salary. But here's the weird thing about it. If the candidate has a higher salary, then the client pays more because the candidate's salary is higher. However, the recruiter's process to find someone largely remains the same. So they're getting paid more for the same job, right? Obviously, that could go the other way, where they're getting paid less for the same job if it was a junior candidate that was needed. But no one really struggles to find juniors. People struggle to find seniors, right? like people that are incredibly experienced or do a very specific niche thing, right? But I don't think that's quite right. If I'm doing the same job, then it should be the same fee. So I exclusively do fixed fees. Just makes sure that you pay for the service that I provide. Again, it's the value. The outcome is that you hire someone and the pricing is based on the service that I provide to get you like the outcome, not the exact outcome itself, which is why I also do guarantees and stuff. I don't really see many other companies doing, like every recruitment company does a rebate period, right? Like, oh yeah, and if they leave within 12 weeks, you can get some of the money back. And that's fine, but it's pretty standard. It's not like a catch your eyes guarantee. So the way that I say it is, look, we'll do the hire in 21 days, so you save 25% of the flat fee. And that's another way to make sure that their perceived likelihood of achievement of receiving the value that I sold them in the first place, of getting the hire done in a certain amount of time, is higher, because I'm going to work for it, because why would I want to give away 25% of the fee that I've worked hard for?
So when I worked with recruiters previously, if they brought us somebody that we hired and we paid the fee, and that person left within 6 months or whatever it was, they would replace the person with a new candidate.
Oh,
for the
right.
same
Yeah.
fee. You do that as well or not?
I think it largely depends, really. So I always have a rebate period anyway, and that rebate period is 8 weeks. So, and that's like a sliding scale scenario, and that's pretty standard to what I've always done. I think it depends on how like the person's left, right? So if I've gone and done the job that I needed to do, and then, 5 months in, they have a big falling out, or the client changed the goalposts of the responsibilities of the role, and then they're going to demand I find someone else for them and do the same job again, when maybe actually that was a problem with how they organized the job description, how they aligned, all the internal people aligned on what this person actually should be doing in their job. If that's actually potentially at least partially fault of the company, then maybe I shouldn't be doing another job for free, right? Especially if the problem isn't going to be fixed and we're going to have the same encounter down the line. So part of the way that I try to fix that is included in what I do is I teach companies how to run successful recruitment processes.
Okay,
It's not
yeah.
just doing the recruitment, right? So I'll design the recruitment process for them, give them solid metrics to make sure that, they're hiring for the right reasons, to make sure everyone's aligned on things like salaries and benefits and the actual responsibilities of the job prior to even engaging a candidate in a first stage interview, making sure that the offer management is done correctly so that people are joining for the right reasons, not just because it's a little bit more money than they used to have, because then they might go elsewhere for another load of money, right? So it's just managing the process in a holistic way right from the very beginning. So it's designed nicely so we don't have that fallout in the back end.
And that training that you're doing, is that part of your service as part of that fee, or are you doing like a training course and then like an hour crash course?
So it depends. I get different plans for different stages of growth for businesses. So I've got like a very early stage plan where I would quite literally just be doing their first few hires for them, doing the sourcing, doing the screening, doing the offer management, the scheduling, the management of the application process, moving everyone across, making sure that they keep within a time to hire. And I'm happy in the initial consultation there to do a little bit of coaching on, this is what I recommend you would do if these are the kind of hires you're trying to get, and that would just get included in it. The further up we get within the plans, then the more hands-on I go into actually design and build all of this for them. For the early stage process people, I tried to do a little bit more of it for free, because early stage companies need more of it to start with. And it only benefits me, right? If an early stage company uses me to recruit and they understand how to do it effectively and properly, and as they grow, they continue to use me, then it makes my job easier. Retraining a company that is going for their second 10, 15 hires after they've done things a certain way and believe it works, but actually it doesn't, because why would they be using me? Or like a hyper growth company that is going through people like hotcakes and doesn't understand why.
Yeah.
Then there's a lot of more work for me to do, and then it becomes included in prices and monetized.
Okay. And that's what I was curious about is how much, because I have this thing that like we do with Value, a project management as a service offering now, because we built a product, but I feel like everybody needs a service, not a product. They need someone to help them see the value. But I think you've got to give a lot of value up front in order to have your service taken up. And it comes to that credibility and integrity thing. And that's what I was curious to see. Like, 'cause to me, if you become that trusted advisor, like you are for recruitment, they'll phone you. Not every deal, not every phone call will be a deal. Every phone call will be a trusted conversation where it may lead, but you're in that nice space where they'll trust you with information that'll help you to be in the right position when they do need you to come in now. I think it's the forward part of the value proposition.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think it's just about being able to give them actual advice and solid education around the thing that you're pairing with the service, right? Because anyone could use something potentially wrong or not to the best way, and being able to help people get the most out of what they're trying to achieve is almost equally as valuable, or maybe it is equally as valuable as them using the thing in the first place if they don't get the outcome that they're trying to do without the coaching, right? So they
Yeah.
do come part and parcel, and I think that becomes part of the sales process. Like if you can package that in a way that makes sense to start with, and they see why they need both, then there's no reason why both wouldn't be the entire package right from the get-go.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And have you systematized this now? Is it something that you almost have a playbook that you use and using technology to make it more efficient? Or how do you do your work? As a
Yeah, of
value?
course. So for things like talent strategy design, I built out this 12-page pitch deck to present it because I did a couple of talks on the subject of talent strategy design and used that. But from that, I ended up building out like an 18-page instruction manual on how to do everything, and then realized that's a lot of friction to read through all of that and probably not the best. So I've broken it down into like 8 very actionable points with some information on how to go and design each point and implement each point. And the nice thing of having that is that's already built, and companies can choose, hey, we'll take the thing and we'll go and try and implement it, or I can come and help coach them on how to do it effectively. So, but that exists as a thing. And then in terms of like application management and building all that out, I build a custom Airtable build for them that I've got the blueprint of, that people can just drag and drop based on what candidates are assigned to their name, what action they need to do. There's a whole calendar attached to it. The lovely thing about that is Airtable's the free plan does everything I needed to do without having to pay for it, which is great. Value add for me, which is lovely. So yeah, there's a couple of systems and processes that I've built. I can just copy and paste and reskin now, which is lovely.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Yeah, I never really got into Airtable as a tool. I use Notion as my primary tool, but that runs out of blocks pretty quickly. But I'm glad to hear you use some sort of technology. 'Cause I think in order to scale, I'm assuming you're a small business in terms of one or two of you. You need the tools to help you automate or to scale.
Yeah,
Because you've
exactly.
been running for about 6 months now, Him.
Yeah, we launched at end of April. So 4 and a bit-ish months. So we're pretty early days, but I think we're going through quite an exciting period at the moment because, what we've discussed so far is the recruitment nuance there, but the second side of the business is helping raise that games industry ecosystem and trying to find different ways to be able to help businesses raise money and help people bootstrap in different ways. Help Trying to find a way to bootstrap a company is a bit of a pain. It's a bit of a minefield. It's like either we do it in a way that takes us years, or maybe there's an alternative solution and everyone's knocking their heads in to try and find an alternative solution. Those are things that we're trying to build out at the moment.
So how would you help a gamer raise funds? I mean, because my experience of building games, and I haven't done them in a long time, and there's probably better ways of doing it. It's quite an onerous thing because you've got to have such a good look and feel, good artifact, good asset. So very rarely will someone not like the days of Doom and Duke Nukem where they build the app on themselves. So how do you get involved? I mean, what's a typical raid look like?
So, I mean, it really varies. Investment in games at the moment is weird because, during the past couple of years, a lot of VCs have really held back. There was a massive boom between 2015, 2020, where, games were doing incredibly well. We had some really brilliant outliers, some really incredibly successful companies that investors started to go, oh, yeah, if we could find another one of those, that sounds really good to me. And an investment got really good. And then it's scaled back a bit recently. And it's getting to the point at the moment where you need to really be able to, just like anything. And I made this post a little while ago saying, everyone's saying investment in games is getting hard, but is it just getting realistic again? Is that actually the frame that we should be looking at it? We enjoyed a really great time where it was easier to raise, where VCs were given, solid power law. Hey, let's give 1 million to 10 companies. I'm sure one will make it and we'll make the fund back. Now it's a lot more skeptical and a lot more traction is needs to be able to prove before they get there. So it's about being able to show that companies at the moment that can build good communities around their early phase of the projects, whether that be like through like a Kickstarter or something along those lines to build out the community, or they slowly build the community over time to show that there is 10,000, 30,000, 50,000 invested players that will likely wishlist the game when it goes into pre-order and into wishlist territory. That's massively helpful. It also depends if you're building mobile or PC and console, right? PC and console games, their dev cycles are like 3 to 5 years. And at the moment, there are games that are going through dev cycles of 3 to 5 years, releasing, and then they get one thing wrong and they don't land, or they don't make up the budget again. And that's a hell of a long time to go through for quite a risk. So I think things that are really heavily prevalent in successful rounds at the moment in games are studios with IP and multi-game plans. So that it's not just relying on a single game to make the fun back. It's like, these are the stages that we build across over the next 10 years. And that's how we build back. So it's diversity. The other thing is cross-platform games. A lot of mobile games are moving to be able to get across onto PC or to get across onto Nintendo Switch and things like that. Brings in 2 different kinds of users, double the monetization. So trying to find different ways to solve the user acquisition problems and to also just to get in front of as many users and prove the traction is the ideal way at the moment to raise.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you look at like Apple's arcade mechanism where there's plenty of games there for a subscription fee. I always wonder how, having built business software, I didn't build game software commercially. I always wonder how a game studio figures out whether their game's actually going to be worthwhile building or not, and then what platform to put it on. And I guess in some respects, it is a personal preference for the team. Like we like Xbox and we're going to build a Xbox. But I wonder if mobile maybe is the best way to test something quickly because you can build it quite a simplified version for a mobile device. Well, I mean, not to say games aren't complicated. I mean, there are some really complicated ones. But if you wanted to test a concept or test a theme, you do it on mobile quite easily and then build the console version or the desktop version. I don't know if that comes up much in your view.
So yeah, it tends to be that porting a game from mobile over to console or to PC is actually quite it's a bit more of an ordeal than it adds a lot of friction to be able to do that. I don't see many companies building from mobile to then specifically only release on PC to like test an audience. Plus it's different audiences, right? Not all mobile gamers are PC gamers, not all PC gamers are console gamers. The players look for different kinds of experiences between platforms. And although cross-platform games have performed reasonably well recently, Star Wars Hunters by Zynga, that's on Switch and it's on mobile. I've got it for both. It's better on Switch than it is on mobile, in my opinion, but it does incredibly well, right? But if the goal is to release a game on console, I don't think that they would build on mobile first to then release it on console. You would then, for traction and to get an idea, it's then all about market research, similar games, similar mechanics, identifying where. So let's say it's a first-person shooter game for PS5 that they're trying to look to build. They would look at all the other PS5 games, see what mechanics they have, what people like, what people don't like. Where is there a gap for a specific core loop, or specific mechanic, or specific environment, or specific point of difference that there's a gap for that people are actually looking for? Which, as again, is why data tools are so much needed currently, and user behavior tools are so much needed within PC console space, is because you can't just go and make a cheap prototype really quickly for PC and console and test it with audiences. It's just not a possible thing to do. On mobile, incredibly possible. Most hyper casual, hybrid casual game studios worth their salt will prototype. So I got a company that I know incredibly well. I did a lot of hires for them last year. They're a hybrid casual mobile studio, and they do rapid prototyping. So they'll have teams of two, a dev and a designer, not really an artist, because it's all about engaging gameplay. You can make it look pretty later, right? Let's get the engagement done. Dev and a designer, 2 to 3 week cycles of prototyping a game. They'll do a small launch in a small area and start to look at the KPIs, look at like retention, day 1, day 7, day 14, day 30. How long are we actually retaining people for? Because obviously mobile games are monetized in a different way, where you've got ads, like ad spend for like putting interstitial ads or rewarded ads within the game. And then you've got in-app purchases for buying upgrades and stuff. So it's like, how many ads are people watching? How long, what's the LTV that we can get from a single player? And then if the metrics are good, then they take them into soft launch, again, take them into hard launch, release the games. That's a really tried and trusted, perfect way of releasing mobile games. And yeah, that's definitely the way that it's done for mobile, but it's difficult to do on PC console.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I mean, I'm just thinking about, I looked at Unity and I looked at the Unreal Engine at one point to run a game, and it was just so much stuff for the desktop to think about. Whereas the mobile game, you can turn it up pretty quickly. So I can see that working. And then I'm wondering, what are the metrics you'd be looking at when you're looking at it? How long is someone playing the game for versus what kind of game it is? And then what devices are they on? Would that make a difference? Would you want to be in the Apple ecosystem versus the Android ecosystem? Or does it not matter?
I don't think it would matter too much. I mean, obviously companies will track both. Some businesses, some studios will make games specifically for Android first and then move across to iOS just for simplicity's sake, right? Maybe if it's about being quicker. Obviously, there's I believe there's slightly different restrictions and things to build between Apple and Google, especially when it comes to like privacy settings. And things along those lines. So there is, a little bit of minutia between the two, but generally mobile games will be made for both and tested out.
Yeah, I can understand that. Great. Is there anything else you want to share with the audience? Ways you can contact with you, that sort of thing?
Yeah, of course. So I think probably a couple of points, a couple of new things that we're building just to get a little bit of awareness of this, because I'm hoping that by building out these initiatives, maybe other industries will benefit from it, or maybe anyone in games hearing this might think that this is a great idea. But at the moment, the community that I run is 54 people. It's all founders in games. It's 34 member studios. Some of the investors that are affiliated with the community to help these members raise. And then it's also partner studios, because we have an exclusive list of outsourcing partners to help these studios get better rates on necessary infrastructure to build out their games. And funding being such a thing, all of these studios, or most of these studios, are going through right now, we're trying to think of different ways to be able to do that. And community is a powerful thing, right? We've seen the rise of the DBC, the Devs Building Companies, WhatsApp, and how it's grown to almost 400 people now in the space of a couple of weeks, and all the things that are going on with it. So the power of community is huge. So there's two things that we're trying to do at the moment, new initiatives that we're doing. One is we're building an online portal for all of the member studios, pitch decks, company bios, materials, and it's all filterable for investors to look at by ticket size, by platform, by team, by genre of game, by whatever their criteria might be, in order for them to be able to schedule calls with interesting opportunities. And the other thing that we're doing is we're turning the community into a consultancy. All of the founders within the business or within the community are incredibly talented people. And any business would be incredibly lucky to have even one of those consult on their games. But what if they could have all of them, right? So the idea is that we turn the community members into a consultancy where other businesses can hire our consultants and our founders to come and help them build their games. And the fees that get paid by the companies to use the consultancy will then in turn fund the studios of the members' founders. It's games funding games, and it's sustainable bootstrapping. So we're trying to come up with new ways to help businesses raise, and these are the two ones that we're doing. If anyone wants to get in contact with me to chat any more about it, you can grab me on LinkedIn. My name is Andre Lemaitre at Makersforge. You can check out all one word on LinkedIn. Reach me on there if anything's interesting and you want to have a chat about it.
Fantastic. Been great having you on the show. And I hope to see some games come out of your community. Is there a sort of notification service for people wanting to look at the games or getting involved from an indie game point of view, or do you not do indie games?
No, we absolutely. Most of the members are indie game developers, right? We've got a couple of venture-backed studios, a couple of second-time founders building something a bit bigger. Hell, we've got a couple of tabletop studio founders in there, right? Like making tabletop physical games too. So it's quite varied. But I have a sign-up sheet for the community. So if there's any businesses that actually want to get involved in that, they can do that via my LinkedIn and in the link at the top left. And I regularly post on LinkedIn once a week about updates to do with the community and what we're doing. So if anyone wants to follow it, they can follow there.
Fantastic. Great. That's awesome. Thanks so much. Thank you for listening to our episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please share it with your friends and colleagues. Help us grow our network. Please also check out our website at www.valuu.work and our product that's on there. It's something we worked really hard on. We hope that it benefits you.